Welcome to Real Deal. I am Brian Rose and we're here live at London Real World Headquarters. And this is where I get to answer your questions. We're going to be together for the next 30 minutes. And what I really want to talk about today is how to start your own podcast. You probably watched on Instagram and on Facebook that we're celebrating 7 years in the game here at London Real. We've been transforming consciousness since 2011. To be honest, it's really hard for me to even get that in my head. 8 years ago, I was a banker in the city of London, and now I'm a broadcaster and a teacher and a writer and all of these crazy things. But it all started with me pulling the trigger on my podcast. And I still remember that day back in October in 2011 where I came home with a bunch of webcams. I literally built the microphones. I found out how to use a mixing board. I set up my own account on iTunes and I pulled the trigger and published the very first episode of London Real. And it was this weird time. It was exciting. No one had really heard about podcasts much, especially not in the UK. And it was really new territory. And I haven't stopped since. I've published every single Sunday an incredible conversation with a game-changing person since then. And I broadcast over 500 of these out to you, and I believe we are transforming consciousness. I know a lot of those episodes and conversations have changed your life, and it's weird how a conversation can do that. And yesterday I got to sit down with Jason Silva, who is just an incredible guy. He's a futurist. He's a guy who talks about the singularity, talks about what it means to be a human. And having conversations with a guy like that is what I believe changes the world. And he was like, Brian, having all of this stuff out there on a medium like iTunes or YouTube, it's kind of like the Library of Alexandria from back in the day that was burned down and we lost all of this knowledge. And as long as Google keeps their hard drives up to date and Apple does that and Amazon, we'll always have these banks of knowledge, this wisdom in video and audio format. And I like to feel like we're contributing to that global consciousness. And if you want to contribute to it, then I want to talk today about how to start your own podcast and how to really go ahead and put your message out there. And it's simpler than you think, but it's more complex than you think. And so tonight I want to answer your questions about that. Today. And again, I get to have incredible conversations like Jason Silva, and I'll have Dorian Yates, who's going to be here on Saturday, the guy that really kind of kicked it off back about 6 years ago, our most watched guest ever on London Real. So I'm streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube. So if you have comments for me, just go ahead and put those questions in. I'm going to be going and answering all the questions I can today about how to start your own podcast. Before I get started, I want to say that you need to be with me on Sunday. So Sunday at 5:30 London time, which is 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 Pacific. So my dad's going to have to get up early in San Diego and broadcast with me or stream with me because I'm going to do the very first of its kind that I've ever heard of. It's our worldwide online premiere of the movie Iron Mind. This is what we premiered here in London about 3 weeks ago at the Ham Yard Hotel. We had an incredible group of celebrities. I did a Q&A afterwards. This is the final movie. And if you joined us for this incredible adventure this year and you watched some of the series or you were in our Facebook group, honestly, this will blow you away because this is nothing like anything you've seen. This is something we worked really hard on for 4 months, and it actually is this incredible standalone journey. It's an emotional journey. People were crying, people were laughing. It is the best movie we've ever made, and I believe this will really change the lives of millions of people, and I want to give it to you for free. So at 5:30 p.m. London time on Sunday, I'm going to be here, and I'm going to do an opening question and answer. Then I'm going to play the movie live at 6 o'clock, and for an hour and 40 minutes, you're going to be able to watch the movie for the very first time ever. And then afterwards, I'm going to do a questions and answer session. I might even have Mariana in the house. She can talk about what it was like to cook for me. And I'm going to be answering your questions about the movie. So join us. We're going to have thousands of people from around the world watching it online. There's going to be comments you can do, and it's all going to happen. You can reserve your spot right now at londonreal.tv/ironmind. Just go in there, give me your name and your email address, and I'll remind you on the day. But set aside a couple hours on Sunday. It's going to be really special. And again, this movie is going to transform your life. And right when the movie's done, I'm going to show you and tell you how you can share this with your friends. because again, I want to get this movie in front of as many people as possible. It's got a lot to talk about. You know, there's a lot going on in this movie. There's a lot of emotions. It talks about childhood trauma. We talk about addictions. We talk about athletics, endurance, veganism, all sorts of things. But it's really a movie for everyone. And that's why everyone in the house really got emotional, because we all have some demons inside. We all have things that we're shameful of, secrets that we hold down inside. And those things change the way we live our lives. They make us play small. They make us live in fear. And trust me, because I know I had a secret that I held for 16 years. I wouldn't even tell my wife and some of my closest friends. And it was all about my addiction and my overdose that happened to me in New York City in 2001. And honestly, I never thought I would ever talk about it. I wanted to talk about it, but there was so much shame, and I thought there would be so much judgment. And then finally, I took some of my own medicine, because I teach my students in the London Real Academy that vulnerability is their greatest asset for their business, for their podcast, even for their own life habits, is to get open and honest and vulnerable. And so I took a dose of my own medicine, and I came out of the closet and I told this story. And it's something I'm really proud of, and it's something that's really freed me up to be more creative. We are doing better than ever. We've just launched our biggest ever business accelerator course. It's incredible, the energy we have going on there. We're at an all-time high for views, for subscribers, for revenue, for great guests. And I believe it's because I came out about what I thought was shameful in my past, which actually is something that I'm finding to be supremely powerful. And there is great light in the darkness, but you got to shine that light in there. And that's what this movie Iron Mind is all about. So join me. The link should be down below. It's londonreal.tv/Iron Mind. We're all going to watch this together around the world. We're going to be having comments, and afterwards I want to hear your questions and your thoughts. And I'm going to give you a special link where you can share it with friends and family and anyone else on social media or anything else. If you can, share it on your social media now and let people know so your friends and family can watch it with you. I guarantee that they are going to love this film, and they'll really understand more about London Real and what we're all about, because this is going to really transform lives. So that's happening on Sunday. And again, I'm probably going to drag Mariana down here and here. She's a little tired of me capturing her on camera and putting her on the big screen, because if you know, in the movie, I actually threw her on there, sometimes unbeknownst to what was about to happen. And we filmed her when I made my confession and that kind of thing. So all of that's in the movie. You're going to love it. We're super proud of it, and it's really going to change the world. So now I want to go to some of your questions, and I want to talk today about broadcasting yourself. I know quite a lot about this because I started from scratch. I knew nothing about broadcasting. If you've watched my TED Talk, you know that I was inspired by Joe Rogan to start my own podcast. I left my world of banking. I was a banker in London for 9 years. I was very good at it. I was a broker at a company called ICAP PLC, which is now part of a company called NEX. And I broked credit derivatives, which is an off-balance sheet product between major institutions. My clients were Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Citibank, all of the big banks. And I spent all of my days on phones, yelling, doing deals, making a lot of money. Unfortunately, it was also making me very unhappy. And for every extra $1 million I made, I got more and more depressed and detached from the world. I didn't know why I was doing anything, because I wasn't giving anything back to the world. I wasn't contributing to the collective consciousness. I wasn't adding something to this great vault or this great library of Alexandria, like Jason Silva would say, of value to the human consciousness. And I was feeling it. I was really going to a deep, dark hole. And so I walked away from my job in banking. I went from banker to broadcaster, as you know, and I started my own podcast, but I started it in video form back when YouTube was like a bunch of tumbleweeds, right? Nobody was on it at the time. And we started putting out video and audio episodes every Sunday. And I made that promise to you, and I made that promise to myself that I would never stop. And so far, 7 years later, I've kept that promise. We've never stopped. And I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. Not until I'm dead. I'm probably going to podcast from the grave. I'm probably going to store up a bunch. So even when I'm dead, I'm going to be hitting you with episodes. You're going to be like, what's going on, Brian? So that's my plan. And today I want to talk to you about that. So again, if you're on Facebook or on YouTube, go ahead and ask your questions right now about how to start your own podcast. I believe that everyone has a podcast inside of them. And all you have to do is face your fears and pull the trigger and get it out, folks. And so first, let's talk about pulling the trigger. Get over all of the fears of people judging you. And inside the London Real Academy, that's the big thing I do. I mentor my students personally, and I get them to get out of their comfort zone and pull the trigger and just effing do it. And that a lot of times is what keeps people from doing anything. Starting a business, starting their own podcast, going to public speak, changing habits about their life. They're usually talking about it, but they don't actually pull the trigger. And it drives me crazy when I see people like that. And so I today want to talk about you doing that. But before we do that, I want to talk about what is your podcast idea. And again, I think everyone should do one. I think my dad, my grandma, my aunt, I think my daughter, Gabby should do one. I think my wife, Mariana, should do one. But first you have to know why. And I will go back to Simon Sinek, one of my guests here on London Real, and he has a concept called start with why. Don't talk about the what I'm gonna do, talk about the why. And you need to go down deep inside yourself and say, what are my values? What's important to me? What am I passionate about? What do I really want to add to the world? And if you really start with that why, then you'll understand what you're going to podcast about. So again, for all of my students, I always have them brainstorm 10 things that are important to them, whether that's family or whether that's martial arts or whether that's community. And why is it important? Why does it make you passionate? And I believe if you start for the right reasons, you'll actually continue on your podcast journey. And if you want to know more about this, I actually have a free guide that you can download right now if you want. It's londonreal.tv/podcast. And I'll put this in the chat here right now. And it's your podcast launch guide. And it's free. And you can go ahead and go through all these exercises yourself. I think the world needs more podcasts. I think everyone can have one that targets a specific audience. I think it helps you connect. It helps you add value to the world. But we always start with why. What are your core values as a person and as a human? What would be your mission statement in life? If you start with that, you will always be successful. And I've taught, I think now, over 500 students how to start their own podcast in my Broadcast Yourself course. And we always start with the core values and the mission statement. Then when we get to 8 weeks and they have 8 episodes on iTunes, which is what we guarantee by the end of the course, they're already with so much momentum. They know why they're doing what they're doing, that they always keep going. And a lot of my students have done 100 podcasts, have gotten 100,000 downloads, and it's because we started with a good foundation. So ask yourself, what's my mission? Why am I here? What's important to me as a value? For me with London Real, I wanted to put out great ideas. I wanted to transform the world. I wanted to put out big ideas. I wanted to have great conversations with great people. And that was really important to me. So again, start with why. Next, I want to talk about a concept called your 1,000 true fans. And this is something I got from one of my guests right here on London Real. His name is Kevin Kelly. And he is one of the founders of Wired Magazine. He's a very, very smart guy. And he wrote an article called Your 1,000 True Fans a long time ago. And I always like to hijack this when I'm teaching my students inside the London Real Academy. And I always say this, and this is what Kevin said. If you can find 1,000 fans all around the world of 7 billion people, of 2.5 people that are connected right now on Facebook, and make those people happy, that's enough to start a business. Because Kevin's thought is this, is that if each one of those people that's a super fan of yours buys your first product, buys a ticket to come see you talk, decides to travel somewhere and invest in you in any way, they're going to spend, say, $100 with you for the year. If you can string together 1,000 of those people, you have $100,000, and that's enough to fund your podcast or start your business. And so Kevin's point is that you concentrate on a very small number of people and make those people happy, and then you can open up your market. And I always stress this to my students in the Business Accelerator and to my students in the Broadcast Yourself course. Focus on a very small micro niche of people. Once you solve their problems, then you can expand. And so what you don't want to do is do a podcast about meditation. What you don't want to do is do a podcast about football. What you don't want to do is do a podcast about human movement. Do something very, very specific. Talk about organic coffees from Colombia that are grown in this specific region, why you think they're the best in the world. Talk about the lizard walk when it comes to human movement, and that's the kind of thing that's going to take you to the next level. Talk about something very specific, and once you find a fan base that you can satisfy, then go to the next level. So for example, if my wife Mariana wanted to talk about that, perhaps she would talk about expatriate Bulgarians who live in London who are mothers. This is a demo she can talk to. She knows their issues. She knows their problems. She knows their hopes and their dreams, and she could build a community around these people. That's a great idea, a much better idea than just making a community of mothers in London. There's a lot of those people, and they aren't necessarily going to resonate with what she's talking about, but this other group of people really will resonate with what she's talking about. So again, start with your 1,000 true fans and go really, really micro about your idea. Try to speak to a certain group of people. Maybe it's men over 50 who want to go on a 100% plant-based diet and run an endurance race, right? I'm not 50 yet, but that sounds really interesting to me. You could talk about what's important to me. You can talk about issues I'm having. I got to deal with a family and a business. I'm not as young as I used to be. I've still got issues. I'm thinking about diabetes. I'm thinking about this. You can really do something that has a narrow micro niche. This is the biggest mistake people make when it comes to businesses and podcasts. So start with your 1,000 true fans. Next, I want to talk about something I talk about all the time, and that is pull the trigger. And inside my Broadcast Yourself course in the Academy, I get people on iTunes as fast as possible. In fact, I get them to record their very first podcast, just them on the microphone, talking about who they are and talking about their mission statement for the rest of the podcast. This does two things. First of all, it gets them to pull the trigger, because you can sit down even with an iPhone right now and you can record yourself and you can do your first 10-minute episode. After that, I can show you how to put it on iTunes easily and you're done. The momentum is flowing, the self-doubt is gone, all of the talk about how you're going to start your own podcast one day and how cool it's going to be, but you have to get a microphone, but you have to get a guest, but you don't understand the technology. All of the buts, those are extinguished when I get you to pull the trigger. And that's what I do inside the London Real Academy more than anything else, is I get people to do the things that they find excuses to not do. And so what you want to do if you want to start your podcast is pull the trigger. Honestly, you could do it right now with zero money invested. I show you inside my course, you don't need anything. All you need is an iPhone and to stop making excuses, and you can have your first episode up on as a podcast. After that, I can show you how to do video, I can show you how to book guests, but pulling the trigger is the most important thing in anything in life. And that's because I have something called a minimum viable product, MVP. And an MVP is this. It is the most minimum piece that you can put out there that would still be recognized as a product. And the beauty of an MVP is this, is that you can create it fast and you can test to see if people want it and if you like doing it. And I always tell my students about all of their minimum viable products, whether in my Business Accelerator or my podcast. And I tell them this: if you are not slightly embarrassed by your very first podcast, your very first video log, your very first digital product, your very first public speech, your very first video interview, your very first anything, then you waited too long to do it. Let me say that again. If you are not slightly embarrassed by your very first anything, you waited too long to do it. That could mean book, that could mean date, that could mean anything that you go and do. Interview. If you're not slightly embarrassed, then you waited too long. And that's what we do inside my academy. I get you to pull the trigger on things you're uncomfortable about every single day. By doing so, we rapidly accelerate and we rapidly learn. So pull the trigger is lesson number 3 when it comes to starting your podcast. Next, I want to talk about guests. What makes London Real a great show, and to be honest, right now, I think there's over 2 million podcasts on iTunes, is that we curate incredible guests. And so what I teach inside my course is I show people how to reach out to people and to get the right guest on your platform. Most people never get around to asking because of fear. They also don't know that you really need to hustle. So what my students do is they actually invite 10 guests every single day of the week where we go out and do guests. So it's 10 a day, 10 a day, 10 a day, 10 a day, 10 a day. It really is the shotgun strategy. So you fire a bunch of pellets, you hoping one hits. It's a hustle strategy. And again, you reach out to people that are slightly out of what you think is going to get your show, but you don't spend time reaching out to The Rock, to Richard Branson, and to Elon Musk. But you do try to reach out to people that aren't just your mother, and your brother, and your cat. So the idea is we try to recognize people that are slightly out of our normal social reach, but people that aren't completely out of the possibility of coming on your podcast. And we hit them with the standard email. And again, we hit as many people as possible because all you need is one yes for your first incredible episode. And once you get that, you can build on your guest of resumes. Look at what we did on London Real. Every single guest got me to the next guest. I had a member of parliament. After that, I had Dorian Yates. After that, I had Tim Ferriss. After that, I had Gabor Mate. After that, I had et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Each guest is like a brick inside your castle. So always be thinking of that. But again, I started off with the cool dudes in my jiu-jitsu class. I started off with guys in the city I used to work with. I started off with just people I knew that had a cool idea. So again, think about your guest booking and your guest curation. Get out there and ask. That's the other thing. You have to hustle to make this stuff happen. And finally, I want to talk about the content on your podcast. There's 2 million podcasts that you're going to compete with out there on iTunes. There's a lot of people that will teach you how to get the microphone. They'll teach you how to get on iTunes. They'll even teach you how to send an email to a guest. What they won't teach you is how to conduct an actual conversation. And that's what makes London Real better than anything else out there, in my opinion, is because I'm able to go really deep with the guests. You would have seen a clip with Dorian Yates or with Gabor Mate or with Simon Sinek, and you would have seen that it's got millions of views on YouTube. The truth is that took me years to learn how to get that deep conversation. And oftentimes that happens, say, 30 or 40 minutes into the show. And that's why I got a moment with them that no one else has ever gotten. And so I teach inside my academy exactly how you structure a conversation where half of it is planned and half of it allows you to respond to the guest and try to go to places they've never gone before. And let me give you an example. Yesterday, Jason Silva was here, and I prepared for him like I prepare for every guest, and I teach this inside my course, how that you can structure the interview. But I also was ready to be prepared that when he mentioned something, I could go deep on it. And he mentioned during the show that he had just fallen in love. And I knew that Jason is a guy that's always looking inside the human mind and looking at how we deal with emotions and logic. And so as soon as he said that, it was like I had caught a big fish. And this is what I also teach inside my course. And I honed in on that and I said, Jason, let's talk more about love. How are you finding this? What is the day-to-day like? Who is she? What's happening? What are the feelings like? And he's like, Brian, what I'm trying to do is we take someone we're in love with this and we try to build them up as a God. And by doing so, we become God-like. And he went on this incredible Jason Silva rant that I've never seen out there before, and I don't know if we'll ever see again. And now I have this incredible piece of content that Jason is going to love, that you're going to love. But that's because I was prepared as a podcast host, and I was ready to go off topic. A lot of people have 10 questions, and they stick to them, and they say goodbye. That's not how you get game-changing content. And so you must always be prepared to go places you're not prepared to go based on what the guest tells you. And that's another really important part about how to start basically an award-winning podcast, and it's what I teach my students inside. So those are 5 tips that I wanted to leave you today on how to start your own podcast. Again, if you want to learn more about this, go to londonreal.tv/podcast. You can get my free podcast launch guide. Actually, once you do that, I'll email that to you, and you'll bounce from that page into 3 free videos that I have that teach you all of the basics I just covered. There's also a link to a free Facebook group, and for the next 3 or 4 weeks, I'm actually going to be teaching all of the elements on how to start your own podcast. And again, a podcast can do incredible things for you. It can actually jack up your business by giving you a massive exposure to a whole list of clients. It can allow you to connect with JV partners that can literally change your business and your life. It can connect you with humanity. I became a better person because of London Real. I had children because of London Real. I stopped drinking myself to death because of London Real. I started making documentary films because of London Real. I now have a team of 25 people around the world, and we're changing global consciousness because I started London Real. I cannot overemphasize the power of starting your own podcast, and you can do it. And I know you're saying, no, not me, Brian. I'm a grandma. I'm a single mother. I'm really busy. I drive a truck for a living. I'm unemployed. I live in Mexico. I live in Thailand. I don't care. Those are all excuses. I'm 85 years old. One of my students was 85 years old. You all have a voice. You all have an audience, people just like you around the world that want to hear about your issues, about your concerns, about your problems. They want to hear about your thoughts on the world. That's all super important. And whether you have 100 people or 1,000 people or 100,000 people or 100 million people like we have that have listened to our messages, it doesn't matter. It's a way to change your life, get you more connected, give you a happier life. I can teach you how to turn that into a business. It's actually quite easy once you have a podcast. All of these things can open up your world. So start today is what I want to say. All right, that's enough of me yapping. Again, join me on Sunday for the online premiere of Iron Mind. Go to londonreal.tv/Iron Mind and lock in your place. Give me your name and your email address. Again, we're going to start at 5:30 London time. I just want to talk about the making of the film. At 6 o'clock, we're going to run it live and stream it live. There won't be any replays, so be there for that. And afterwards, I want to do a Q&A. I'm going to have the director of the film and Mariana here and me. And after that, I'm going to give you a link that you can share to all of your friends to show them how they can watch the movie Iron Mind. So I'm super excited. I know we've made you wait a long time for this, but trust me, the final product is absolutely amazing. All right, I want to go to YouTube now. This is live right here. I got all sorts of questions and comments, and I'm going to go live here on Facebook as well and answer some questions as well. Wow, that's quite a close-up on me. I appreciate it. Boom. Someone just said, Barrett just said, I just watched Iron Man on YouTube, watched the series numerous times. Guests are amazing. Thank you so much, Barrett. Look, the movie is going to blow away anything you've seen before. Honestly, what you've seen is a 3 out of 10. The movie is a 10 out of 10. It's incredible. And again, anybody on Sunday, watch this in the biggest screen as possible with the best audio, because we mastered this. We spent weeks on the sound. I was literally in a sound design studio, and this is really powerful. So thank you so much. Let me see. Garrett's in here. Suresh, thank you so much for the love. Mustafa said, thanks for the great content. No, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Lazio Daniel giving me thumbs up. Thank you, man. Thanks for the respect, Kason. On YouTube, I just wanted to answer some questions here. Patrick's from Scotland. What's up, buddy? Arturo says, what topics are you looking for in a podcast? Honestly, I'm looking for someone who's passionate about what they talk about. That's the most important thing. And that's why in the first part I said start with why. Start with something you're passionate about. Start with something that you'll talk to me for 3 hours about on a Saturday. Start with something that you'll corner me at a party and talk my ear off. That's what's really, really important. All right? So again, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can ask me a question here. Abad said your content is amazing. Thank you so much. Patrick said mine would be music, sport, fitness, and photography. All the things I love. That's great, Patrick. But pick one. Pick something that you can go micro on and go for those 1,000 true fans. If it's photography, great. Maybe it's sport and photography. It's what I call idea sex. I learned that concept from my guest, James Altucher. Take the bridging of two different passions and put them together and talk about how to do photography for sport. I love that idea. John said, what time is the premiere online? It's 6 o'clock on Sunday, London time, or it's going to be at New York, 1 p.m., and of course, Pacific time is 10. So that's happening. We got some people in Scotland, people in India, people in Texas. Awesome. Let me see here. Boom, 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 boom. People are working, blah, blah, blah. This is some interesting stuff here. Yes, it's live for someone want to say. And this is interesting. People are asking, people are asking now about making money and becoming a millionaire. The truth is that I never thought we'd make millions of dollars starting London Real, but I knew it was something I was passionate about. And so every day I came and I gave my best. I put out the best value and the best content. And if you do that every single time you broadcast, people can feel genuine, authentic passion. People can feel when you're actually trying to give them value every single day. If you do that, you can turn that into a business. That's actually the easy part. What's the hard part is pulling the trigger, doing the work, bringing your passion and your mission statement there. Once you do that and you get very specific and talk about your 1,000 true fans, the business is easy. And at the end of the Broadcast Yourself course that I teach, there's 2 modules at the end that show you how to turn it into a business. It's actually quite easy because you already have the fan base, you already have a micro niche, you already have intellectual property that you're talking about. Getting people to pay money for solving their problems is actually very easy. So that's not the hard part. The hard part is, like I said, pulling the trigger, going down to the micro niche and showing up and doing the work. So again, if you want to get started on that journey, go to londonreal.tv/podcast. You can download the free podcast launch guide. And then once you're done with that, you'll go straight in. There's a free Facebook group you can join. There's 3 videos, there's workbooks, and I want to try to help you in the next 3 weeks to start your very own podcast. And again, I've had this incredible ride here, and I get to hang out with amazing people. I mean, this week alone, I'm hanging out with Jason Silva, right? Shots of Awe. He was 5 years on Brain Games and National Geographic, right? He's been watched over 100 million times, just like us. I've got Greg Braden tomorrow. I've got Anita Morjani surviving cancer on Friday. And I've got Dorian Yates, the 6-time Mr. Olympia, back in the studio on Saturday. These are the kind of people I get to hang out with because I pulled the trigger on my very own podcast 7 years ago. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. If you want to come through this entire course, it's absolutely amazing. And again, it'll literally change your life and change your relationship. So look, I want to make sure I got a few more questions here. People talk about how to sponsorize your podcast. The truth is, folks, I'm not a fan of sponsors. I'm a fan of creating a digital product and creating a business ecosystem. That's more important than sponsors and advertisements. I think that's a big mistake. But I talk about that more inside the Broadcast Yourself course, which is going to start in a few weeks here. And again, I want to teach you a lot about that. So Sergio says, how much did Mr. Pena change you? Well, this is a great question. Dan Pena is the $50 billion man. He's been on my show a few times. I made a movie about him. You know, all of my guests changed me, to be honest. Every single one of them. Simon Sinek taught me how to start with why. Ido Portal changed my movement. Dan Pena got me to pull the trigger. That's what he taught me. And that's what I try to teach you, the same thing. I take the lessons that I learned and I try to teach you those lessons. Why aren't you pulling the trigger? Why aren't you starting before you're ready? Why aren't you changing your movement practice? Why aren't you changing your spiritual practice? Why aren't you looking at what's important? Why aren't you being a better parent? This is what I'm talking about all the time. So yeah, Mr. Pena changed you, and I hope I changed you. That's why I'm here. So for you, Mustafa, and your Sergio, and you, Enrico, and for you, Laszlo, all of you people, I want to change you. I want to transform your life, and that's what we do inside London Real Academy. I'm here to change you. I'm not here for entertainment purposes. I'm not here to do a singing dance for you. I'm here to get you to pull the trigger. That's really the purpose of London Real. It always has been. I'm here to get guests in here that put ideas in your brain, that empower you to make a change, and then actually get you to pull the trigger and transform yourself. And if you want my help, that's what the London Real Academy is all about. And you can find more about that on our website, londonreal.tv. And again, you know where the podcast launch guide is, and that's what our movies do as well. Uh-oh, looks like my wife just came in here. Mariana's looking at me. Baby, what are you doing, stalking me? I know Grandpa just made it to town, so say hi to Grandpa for me. And make sure you're looking after those boys while you're looking after me. And of course, Mariana, she is saying that she might be here on Sunday for the Q&A after the movie Iron Mind, which she stars in, which she pretty much steals the show. Someone at the premiere in London came up later and they said, Brian, you know who the real star of the movie is? And I said, me? And they said, no, it's your wife. So you're going to be the judge on Sunday when you watch this thing stream live, but everyone says that Mariana's the star, right? Michael Baker in the chat here says, Broadcast Yourself is legit, 100%. Thank you very much, Michael. Michael's a graduate of our Broadcast Yourself program. He spent eight weeks with me. He produced 8 episodes, and it blew up his business. It blew up his social structure. Mike Baker, we call him Awesome Mike, is an amazing guy. He's a graduate of my Business Accelerator and my Broadcast Yourself course. Mike is 100% legit. I love you, buddy. I love what you're doing out there. So again, for anybody out there, if you want to start your own podcast, I'd love to help you. LondonReal.tv/podcast. Get the downloadable guide and then jump right into the Facebook group and let's start doing that. I want to check any last comments on YouTube. Let's see who's here. Vivencio saying thanks. Let me see. Boom. What's going on here? Looks like everyone's going to be downloading some of the podcast guys, which is great. People are asking me help about a sales interview. What is something you can differentiate yourself? honestly, John, I would say always pull the trigger. Go in there and act as if you're that person, right? Act as if you're a podcast host. Act as if you're a business person. Act as if you're a TED speaker, and then go do it. So that's what I would always say, John. You know, you got to do minimum viable products everywhere. You got to try things that you're not comfortable doing. You got to pull the trigger on things in life. So, John, that's what I would say to do. Do that for doing that. All right. Otaku said you gave an awesome blueprint for being something awesome. Thank you, buddy. I really appreciate it. I'm just here to get you to do great things in life. That's what we do here at London Real. Aman said how to start a physics magazine in India for public. You know what I would say? Start a podcast. Build that podcast audience first and then worry about a print product. That's what I'd say is really, really important for you, all right? And Arturo said, awesome. I'm a nurse by profession, used to be in the Army, looking to do things in the health and wellness and lifestyle. Is that overdone? I love it, Arturo. You really get the idea of the micro niche. Take nurses. I've built a lot of businesses around nurses in my business accelerator. Nurses are the greatest clients ever because they treat themselves poorly and their patients amazingly, and they need a lot of help when it comes to diet, nutrition, financial planning, rest. I love businesses around nurses because they're a great micro niche and they really need a lot of help and they're doing really noble work. So that's what I like. This Praga says, I really like London Real. It's amazing. Thank you so much. Look, I'm here to help. That's what a Real Deal is here for every week. I would love to hear what you want me to talk about next week. So leave your comments below in the YouTube and tell me, or in Facebook, and tell me what you want to hear about next week. Again, I'm here to broadcast live. If you want to learn how to do your own podcast, again, londonreal.tv/podcast. This is Real Deal. I will see you on Sunday, 5:30 London time, 12:30 Eastern. That's 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. I'm going to talk about behind the scenes, what you don't know about John Joseph, what really happened to me on the day of the Ironman. I'm going to talk about all of that stuff, and then I'm going to show you the movie Iron Mind for its world online premiere. There's going to be thousands of people there. We're going to have a chat there, and then afterwards, we're going to do a Q&A from you. And I'm also going to love it if you could even film a video and give me your reaction to the movie. That would be amazing. All right, so I'll see you on Sunday. It's londonreal.tv/ironmind to lock in your space for the online premiere. And for anybody that wants to do the podcast launch guide, it's londonreal.tv/podcast. Michael Baker said, thanks for keeping it real, Brian. Thanks for helping me launch the awesome Wholesale Experience podcast. It's changed my life, sir. Thank you, Michael. Dude, you're amazing, man. I love it. I really appreciate that. Mustafa said, I discovered you from my interview with Grant Cardone. You know, I was able to do that amazing interview with Grant because I did all the hard work at London Real for about 6 years. And that's what I teach inside my course, how you can be a world-class podcaster and a world-class interviewer. And that will open doors to things you never imagined. Business opportunities, personal opportunities, you name it. So that's it, folks. I want to thank you so much for being here. I'm loving doing Real Deal. Share this video with a friend if you're enjoying it. Give me some comments here. Whatever you do, pull the trigger in life, broadcast yourself, and I'll see you on Sunday for the world premiere of Iron Mind. Good. London Real doesn't stop when the conversation ends. You see, that's when we get started. Because everything begins with a thought, and then comes the action. The London Real Academy is our global transformation platform. Here we bring together thousands of students from over 75 countries. Whether you want to build a profitable business from your passion, or learn to speak to inspire, or broadcast yourself with your very own podcast, or accelerate your life to become a high-performance person, we have the online accountability course and personal mentoring program that will make your dream a reality. Join us, and we'll take your life to the next level, together. Our next accelerator course is starting soon.